Okay, I'm getting a notice that we're not streaming live on Facebook.
Let me clear the page first. All right, now you're good.
Okay. All righty, did Susan show up? Not yet.
She did not.
Okay. Well, we'll get started. Welcome to the Troy Board of Park Commissioners and the Recreation Board's joint meeting of October 6, 2020. Abby, if you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. Cappers,
Here.
Mr. Emmerich,
Here.
Mrs. Westfall, Mr. Hobart, Mr. Den, Mr. Jackson,
Here.
Mrs. Reed, Mr. Herman.
Well, Mr. Jackson, you look like you're the only one from the Recreation Board. So the first matter come before us today is the approval of the joint Recreation and Park Board minutes of July 15th. And I don't think we can do that since it's primarily a Recreation Board matter and you don't have a quorum. So we'll go on to the minutes of our August 18, 2020 Board of Park Commissioners. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to those minutes?
None here.
Is that a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They stand accepted. Thank you. Reports. Mr. Drake, how are you today, sir? You're muted yet. There you go.
There we go.
Okay. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I was just going to say a couple things here, and just keep in mind too, as the board looks at these reports each month, I can filter these any way we want. So if there's different data that you want to see, I could break these reports out differently. What I try to do is give you a snapshot each month of the line by line work orders that we accomplished, and then an overall summary. So basically, in a nutshell, the first 9 pages you received are the individual work orders that we accomplished through this last month. And then the last 2 pages are the work item cost summary report per work order grouping. So just wanted to point out that even though this last month, just for the sake of cutting down on the amount of data entry that I needed to do, we didn't capture some of our routine items like the mowing that happened each week, cleaning and stocking and sanitizing of restrooms. I think those were the main ones that I did not input, but you'll notice that when it says tent setup and tear down, that was for Float Troy for the floating tent rentals at Treasure Island. We had a 2-week stretch at the beginning of September that we had those out to help accommodate. We had a large waiting list, and we wanted to accommodate as many of those people as we could. So that was quite labor intensive at the beginning of September. We did wrap that up. That 2-week period was really successful. We were able to service, I think it was 40 to 50 people on a waiting list to get a tent rented. And so we've wrapped that up. The tents are now put away for the season. We've had a recap meeting and have some new ideas moving forward for next year that we're going to implement. But that went really well. But again, very labor intensive and took a lot of time. You'll see we're continuing to water and fertilize flowers. Some of those will be coming down in the next couple of weeks. We plan to pick up merchant pots that are starting to look pretty bad, and probably taking the bridge baskets down over the next week or so. But still been very active in those duties and other building maintenance duties as well. So we're kind of starting to transition into fall cleanup and soon leaf mulching and so forth, but still very busy on the maintenance front as well.
My compliments on the bridge baskets and the pots downtown. They look stunning this year.
They were amazing. And just so everybody knows, we need to thank not only my guys, I've got several guys that share on the watering and fertilizing. We've got Mercer Group that does the flowers around the fountain downtown, and Gardenstone Greenhouse that does the remainder of the baskets and the planters. We do all the maintenance, but they do the planting, and Mercer Group does the maintenance around the fountain. And just we had so many compliments this year. I didn't think we could outdo ourselves from what we did last year, but I think we did this year. So thank you. I'll pass that along.
Sure. Talk to me about the tent rentals. You said it was very time consuming on our part. Is anybody making money on those, and why aren't they taking more of the effort rather than our park people?
Yeah, so we just took that over this year. That had been done by a contractor the first couple of years that this was implemented. They gave that up, and so we took it over and did it in-house. And a huge compliment to Kerry Slater and to Matt Clifton in our department. Both worked really, really closely together, worked extremely hard, long hours to coordinate all of that, and did an amazing job. So we took that over. Now that money, it is a charge of $75 per night per rental, and that money comes directly to us now. And so we're the ones recouping that rather than that going to a contractor. So
Good.
we are seeing that. It is, we did add Matt Clifton to our staffing this last year, and part of his time is spent downtown with maintenance duties in our downtown area. And then a huge part of the remainder of his time was spent on tents this year. So I'm thankful to have him, and he did an excellent job with that whole program.
Good. Well, we're going to be hearing more from you later on in this session. Are there any questions currently for Mr. Drake?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Seiler, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Do you have anything to report to us today?
Just that we're in full swing now with our fall and winter ice hockey. We started having our ice here about 3 weeks ago, and all of those programs are in full swing. We've had obviously several of our larger scale special events that have been canceled going into the fall, but they've been rescheduled into spring. So we had a Travis Tritt concert that was canceled from actually this past spring. It was rescheduled for late August, and that's been now moved into March. And Urban Meyer, which was scheduled for next week, I believe it was, that's also been moved to the spring to April the 22nd. We've also learned this past week that Winter Guard International, that we help with hosting some of their teams for practices and also one of their event days, unfortunately has already been canceled for 2021. So they've been here for probably about 15 years now, and they're a good group for us to work with on an ongoing basis. And I just hate the fact that their event had to be canceled for all of the Dayton area. It's a huge economic impact they have. We had submitted a seating variance to Miami County Public Health. We're currently limited to 300 seating capacity, as are all other indoor venues across the state. They have since forwarded that variance request along to the state of Ohio on Friday, and we're just waiting to hear back from that so that we can get at least somewhat of an increased capacity to potentially hold some other special events. It looks like that number will probably be between 750 and 800 seats, and we're hoping to get word back from the state on that this week. Also, the shoreline has been going very well. Our sales at the shoreline have increased by about 25% over the entire calendar year last year. So we're already 25% above where we were at the end of the year last year. So I know we've got multiple golf outings coming up over the course of the next few weeks, and also just some ongoing rentals that have been utilizing the space for luncheons and those type of things. So I would anticipate sales should probably end up 30 to 35% over where they were last year.
That's great.
I believe that's all I have today.
Okay. Do you attribute the increase to any one particular item?
I think there are multiple courses that have gone out of business. I think we've had some results from that, as well as I think just golf in general this year has gone up significantly across the country. There was a time period where I don't think there were a lot of other options other than golf, and I think it's likely going to have a lasting impact on courses, hopefully over the next few years, not just a 2021 thing or 2020 thing.
Okay, well, thank you. Any questions of Mr. Seiler?
No, Ken, I'll just comment. Love the burger at the shoreline. Our friends all kind of texted about it, kind of spread around there, but big fan of it. So
Well, I think according to Dave, who's kind of overseeing that along with Darlene, the feedback's been good. I think there's been a lot of groups that have been coming out that are not necessarily just playing golf at the course, but are coming out for, off of the bike path and just coming out for lunch or dinner in groups. So I think the effort that they put in out there is starting to pay off and generating some other additional sources other than just golfers.
definitely.
Great, keep it up. Okay, Kyler Boer is actually in a golf tournament today, so he's unavailable. I don't have a planning commission report. At this point in time, does Doug Jackson, on behalf of the Recreation Board, do you have anything you want to ask or talk about?
Is that him?
Doug, you're mute there.
Yep, I had to unmute. No, we have nothing to report on today.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, old business, update on park encroachments. I noticed, Mr. Davis, you may be in the audience there. Do you want to report on that, please?
Here's the screen.
Yes. So I put a memo in the packet. There were 11 properties that we identified that had encroachments. We sent letters out in July and then again in September. That resulted with 5 properties that have complied with our request. We marked those as closed. And then we had 3 property owners that submitted a request. We actually received 2 written requests that were in the packet to purchase land. Both of those were in the Edgewater area, and one that we verbally discussed an easement with, and that would be off of McKay. We have a drive there that he would like to keep. That left 3 other cases that remained as open, which means they hadn't complied with our request to remove or hadn't submitted anything saying they wish to purchase. Having to report that as of last night, that number is down to 2. 1021 McKay has removed the fence onto their property. So we have just 2 properties now that have encroachments. One is a fence, the other one is a shed. The one with the shed has recently sold. So the current property owners that we were notifying, the property, they were actually moving out. This was last week, and informed us that they informed the new owners to be of the encroachments, and I told them to give us something, whether they were going to comply or they requested to purchase land. So I'm still waiting on that. The last one would be Kings Chapel Park. The encroachment there, we have not heard back from the property owner other than the fact saying she did not want to remove her fence. So that's probably the issue we're going to have to deal with. We did make 2 recommendations. One would be that the park board take the appropriate action with the request for purchases, and that we submit another letter to the 2 open cases now stating that if they don't remove their items by November 1st, then the Parks Department could move that for them.
Tim, what are the addresses?
If you need the addresses are 2854 Amberwood and 131 Kings Chapel Drive.
What was the first
Kings
one?
Chapel or Waterford?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's 2391 Waterford Drive. Sorry. That was the location of the park. Sorry.
Yeah, you've got 2396 Waterford on your sheet.
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, all right.
2396 Waterford, and then it would be
This one?
2854 Amberwood. Yeah, but those are the 2.
So that's one of them.
The other one is Waterford Drive, 2396. Should be the last picture.
Of course it is. Because we don't have them in order like we should.
They're in order from the spreadsheet. Yep, there it is. And the Waterford property, it actually has an encroachment not only on the city of Troy parkland, but also on the neighboring property, but that would be a private property matter with her and the other property.
Right. Okay, well, let's address the request to purchase the encroachment first. We had asked you to go ahead and suggest to the property owners that if they wanted to go ahead and purchase the property, that they take care of giving us all the information that our new policy for purchase of park property entailed, and it looks like they have. Would you confirm that?
Yeah, so with the letter, we sent the policy that was set up to them and asked them to address the issues in that policy in their letter.
Okay. All right. And I agree with their letter indicating that the property that's encroaching doesn't appear to be of a substantial interest to our park and its use. Susan, I see that you're on. Welcome. Jordan, do either one?
She was on, but
She's not now.
well, then she got knocked off, so I got to let her back on somehow, but I'm in, let's see where we're at, waiting room. There she is. She should be coming on again now.
Susan, let me know when you're on.
No, he said, wait, Susan, are you on?
I'm on.
We need to, for you to be official, we need to see you. You need to put video.
Yeah.
There you are.
So she's on?
She's there.
Okay, great. Hi, Susan.
Oh, hello.
We're dealing with the issue concerning whether we want to go ahead and sell the encroaching property to the owners that are encroaching upon some of our park properties. They've remitted letters to us indicating that they're interested in doing so. Those addresses would be 1124. Can't quite, we're dealing with the ones that are in green, right, Tim?
Arbor and Arbor. Yes, 1124 Arbor and 1136 Arbor.
Okay, and then there's the one down on McKeag. I can't read that.
McKeag.
It's not working out well.
1025 McKeag, it looks like.
That's correct.
And are they suggesting, is that the one you said was taken care of now?
That's the one that they just wanted an easement, didn't necessarily wanted to purchase the property, and I thought it would be better if we didn't sell the property. We just provided an egress easement for him.
Okay. Is he going to pay anything for it?
He would be, depending on the results of the planning, if the park board was willing to do that for him.
Okay. Jeremy, do we need that entrance into Haywood Park at all? That driveway? Jeremy, Mr. Drake,
This is like,
We lose
Are
it?
you there?
Mr. Drake, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah,
We
so,
need- Go ahead.
There you
so I
are.
think as long as we still have access, my guys do enter with mowing equipment off of Penn Road. So as long as we still have access into that, I think we're okay there. From what Tim's saying, I don't think our access would be blocked. Is that correct?
Yeah.
This driveway's on McKeag, right next to the house.
Right here.
So if you're using the Penn
Oh,
Road,
yeah. I thought that was already set up as an easement.
it is not.
Okay. No, we're okay there.
Okay. I would make a motion to, on these three properties, suggest to city council that they declare, and we will be declaring these three properties as excess properties, surplus properties, and ask that they be placed for sale. Now, I know that the one who's talking about an easement, I'd rather just sell it to them so that we don't have to worry about any liability in the future or maintaining that property whatsoever. So that's the motion. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion and second to declare those three properties as surplus. Any further discussion? Any questions you want to pose now before we vote on this issue?
No.
Okay, hearing none. Abby, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Cappers,
Yes?
Mr. Emmerich,
Yes.
Mrs. Westfall.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Davis, then you asked on a second matter that a certified mail letter be sent to the other I think it's the 2396 Waterford Drive property who's still encroaching.
Correct, and 2854 Amberwood Drive.
Okay, on those two.
Mhm.
Okay, and do we have a draft of that letter? Or are you?
It would be our standard letter that we've sent out before, and people who have violations on other city-owned property that is not park board property. It would be that same letter.
Okay. Okay, I'll also move that we send out such a certified letter.
Yeah, I can second that.
Any further discussion on that issue?
No.
Abby, please call the roll.
Mr. Cappers,
Yes?
Mr. Emmerich,
Yes.
Mrs. Westfall.
Yes.
How has the survey of the other city properties gone? Are there any encroachments there that the city needs to know about? Do you know?
Yeah, we have identified some other encroachments on city-owned property, and we have written the standard letter I just talked about to the property owners. There's just one, I think it's with the wastewater treatment plant. And so that letter has gone out, and we actually have a meeting tomorrow with that property owner.
Super, thank you. Okay, Mr. Davis, anything else on this park encroachment matter?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Do you have any update on the sale of the property behind Mrs. McDonough's house or Waco Park or anything like that we've already declared a surplus?
Sue, I think will give an update.
Sue, you want to give that update right now?
On the property behind Miss McDonough, we are waiting for the county to sign off on the plat that we need in order to advertise the property for sale. As soon as that comes back from the county, we can proceed to advertise that in Waco Park at the same time.
Have amounts been determined for both properties yet?
No, they haven't.
Okay,
done
thank you.
that yet.
No, we have not.
Tell me the process in which those amounts are determined.
We try to look at comparables, but we also then look at the costs, the administrative costs that we have had to advertise, to do the surveying, do all the administrative work that we have to do to get it ready. Because it has to be advertised 5 times, oh, 6 times. 6 fingers are being held up.
Well, those costs are in addition to the fair market value of the real estate.
Right.
How are we determining the fair market value of the real estate if we don't have comparables? Are you looking at the true value at the auditor's website or something?
We use a variety of ways, whatever is the most recent and can give us the most accurate.
Okay.
It's not scientific because we don't go out and have an appraiser do it. That would be just as much of a cost, and we would have to add that cost to the sale of the property, which just, it's catch-22 almost.
Right. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Okay. New business. Request regarding Duke Park's basketball court. Mr. Drake, do you have a report on that?
I believe, do we have Autumn White, Patrick, in the
Yes.
waiting for beyond?
Here, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Would you identify yourself and let us know what your address is, please?
Yes, Autumn White, 925 Arrow Drive in Troy.
Okay. Mr. Drake, did you want to lead the discussion?
Well, if I could, so Autumn, we have the PowerPoint that you presented. The board can see that. Do you want to just walk through some of the ideas and kind of the idea behind all of this, and then we can go forward with the discussion?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you guys for letting me present. I really appreciate it. I've been in contact with Jeremy for a couple of months now. As you may have seen in my presentation, I live in the Nottingham subdivision here in Troy. And back in August, in the beginning of August, a little boy from our neighbor got killed in a car accident. He was 11 years old. I actually was there when the family was notified. Our neighborhood is very, very tight. It's just really been quite impactful on everyone, as everyone could imagine with an 11-year-old. So of course, nothing is ever good enough in these sort of circumstances. But I was just trying to really come up with a way to honor the family, keep his memory alive, and what it just kept coming back to what his obituary focused on. I was at his memorial. It's all about his love of basketball as well as his family's love of basketball. So his dad is a high school coach at Miami East. He coached at Piqua before that. Grant and his older brother have played basketball throughout their whole lives, and they are giant Tennessee Vols fans. They would do family vacations centered around going to different arenas and watching basketball, watching the Vols play. One part of his memorial was the month before he died, his dad took him to Tennessee and he got to meet 3 of the basketball players there. And he had described it as the best day of his whole entire life, which, you know, you don't think that that's going to end up actually being the best day of your life when you're 11 years old. So that's just been very impactful on me and on my neighborhood. And I know that, you know, Troy has a lot to offer when it comes to just wrapping your arms around the community. So I was taking a walk, like I said, I live here in Nottingham. I was taking a walk through Archer Park and had noticed a teeny tiny basketball court off of there. And that's where it sort of sparked, you know, what if we could just do something that would help the city of Troy, you know, help other community members with this love of basketball and honor the family at the same time. The Archer Park thing sort of fizzled out a little bit for a variety of reasons, some of which was my own confusion about which one was an encroachment and which one was on city property. But in the meantime, I was having a conversation with a family member about Grant's older brother, William, is on the cross-country team. Him and Grant were very best friends. And they always play basketball together. And William has not been able to bring himself to play basketball since his brother died, but he did join the cross-country team. So I was out at Duke Park with my kiddos, and I realized that the Miami East cross-country team runs a route around Duke Park. Additionally, William and Grant and their dad would go for runs, and they go on that bike path and then around Duke Park. So that is a neighborhood that's been utilized, an area that's been utilized by that family. And then I noticed this little basketball court, nothing necessarily wrong with it, but nothing special about it either. So I reached out to our neighborhood and just asked if anyone would be interested, you know, if I took on the task of seeing if there was anything we could do for that park in Grant's honor, if anyone would be willing to contribute. And within 3 days, we had over $2,500 pledged for whatever improvements that the city and the park board would allow us to make. So after that discussion, I kind of had been talking with Jeremy a little bit about what his ideas would be, what sort of things the park could need. There's some pretty basic and obvious ones. Also, the more expensive of the ones, and our neighborhood would love to contribute that. It could use a new seal coat. It's not currently striped. So Jeremy did mention re-seal coating it and doing striping. He, I believe, had looked at the backboards. He said he thought they were in pretty good condition and he would not suggest doing anything with those. I don't know. The next slide kind of shows what the ideas were for those improvements. Yeah, right there. So I just had a little rendering done, just some super simple things, like I said, recoating, the striping. There's a graphic that I'll talk about here in a minute. And then obviously one of the biggest things are those goalposts are in not real great condition. We had talked about cleaning those up. There's one that's kind of leaning that would need to be straightened out, and I think maybe some cement work done. And then I had proposed using the Troy branded orange as the paint color, both because if you look at the rendering, I actually think it looks really great. But also it's just a super gentle nod to Grant and his family and his love of the Tennessee Vols. Everything, our entire school has been sporting their orange Grant t-shirts. It's just a color that's very meaningful for them. So how perfect that, you know, it exactly fits within the city's brand as well. So that was a proposal that I was making. And then as far as, you know, there's typically a center court graphic where the jump ball goes. This is another rendering that I had done, you know, very basic in terms of the basketball, but then there's that subtle G in the middle. I have discussed with people, and I'm, you know, can discuss the, continue these discussions with Jeremy. I could have a stencil of sorts made so that we could use the same paint technique as on the striping, and get that in the same material, and figure out what type of paint and that sort of thing would be best for that. And then beyond that, the other thing that I was proposing is just a small little memorial plaque. I've been in touch with 2 different sign companies. It was suggested to me, which I think is probably a good idea. Perhaps it could go, you can't see it, but there's a parking lot that abuts right up to the basketball court. The suggestion to me was perhaps put it closer to that parking lot so it doesn't become a safety hazard for anyone, you know, stray balls and that sort of thing. You don't really want it around it or anywhere too close. So I did actually, by the time I submitted this presentation, I didn't have a proof back, but I did just get one, I think yesterday. It looks pretty similar in style to that, the sign in the middle. The proof that I got did have a single post. It was a vinyl and PVC sign. And I'm happy to share that with the board too. And it basically is just in memory of Grant and Gillespie. And then there was a little bit more to that, but you know, that was an initial proof, and I was very pleased. The people I was working with were wonderful. The price came in, I was totally guessing on the quote, and that came in kind of right under where we wanted that to be. So really that was sort of the last piece to that, to see if fiscally, if our neighborhood would even have the funds to do something like this. So that is the last slide. A lot of those quotes were actually provided to me directly from Jeremy. Obviously, he's the expert in that. And that includes some of the things we talked about, the seal coating. Jeremy had offered that the park staff could do a couple of things like repairing that leaning goalpost, doing some cleaning if needed. If there's painting that can be done by park staff rather than someone else. And then like I said, I've been in touch with a couple of people about some of the more graphic aspects. So I have, since I've kind of had more of the technical aspects, I haven't had a chance to really follow back up with Jeremy. I really just sort of threw it all into this presentation so that everyone was hearing the information at the same time.
Well, thank you for the presentation. First of all, condolences to the families that are affected. That losing an 11-year-old, that's really tough. And we all really appreciate the involvement of the neighborhood in getting behind this project. I think it's a nice project to get behind. There would be a couple of things I would think that we would need to discuss. Number one, I don't know that we would want to undertake the project until the pledges are in. Hopefully the pledges would be in, and you look like you're about $200 away from the total yet.
With some of the quotes that I had come back in for the plaque, I think I'm probably right on, and honestly, I would have no worries about making up that little bit of a difference.
And the other matter is and we'll further discuss this, but the other matter is the plaque installation itself. I don't know that I'm really in favor of a freestanding plaque. I don't know if you're aware of the tree plaques that we have in dedication of people who have passed away. The brass plaques we have at the bottom of the trees are about 4 by 8 inches. I'd be willing to consider something like that, but I don't know about a freestanding plaque. Jordan, Susan, what do you guys think about the project?
Well, I like it. I mean, is there any place, like if we can't have a freestanding plaque, what about putting it on the post or at the base of the post or someplace where it could still be visible, but not freestanding.
Jeremy, out there, are there benches on the side, or is there an entrance onto the court where we could put this memorial plaque in the ground where when people enter the court, they'll see it?
No, we don't have one. That was one of the things that was talked about was possibly doing benches as part of the project, and then kind of went a different direction with that. So there are no benches right now. There is no dedicated walkway from the bike path or the parking lot to the court. Like Susan said, one of the things that I was thinking about when Autumn was presenting here was, one, if you go with the freestanding sign, especially the PVC, would be ongoing maintenance of the sign. The good thing or nice thing about the bronze plaques, or a plaque that would mount either on the basketball post or on the court itself, would be they're pretty well maintenance free that way. So I guess that'd be something to think about moving forward with ongoing maintenance. But yeah, to your question, no benches and no dedicated walkway to the court.
I've played a little bit of basketball in the past. Benches are nice. How much do benches cost? Do you have any idea on that?
We had it was about they're about $1,000. I think they're about $1,100, $1,000 to $1,100 per bench, plus the cost of the concrete at the base. So, and I think originally they had talked about possibly 2 benches. And Autumn, you could jump in here. I think we were looking at maybe 2 benches originally. And I think just the cost of the benches alone kind of.
Yeah, no,
If we were to go ahead and put this memorial plaque on the goal posts, you would fix those. Would you be able to do that without damaging the posts themselves, the standard?
We'd have to see. Usually the ones we get from Nichols Monument in Versailles actually are made to mount on a like a stone plaque or a stone foundation. So I'm not sure, depending on who did that, how that would mount exactly. We'd have to see whoever the supplier would be, how that would mount.
Okay. Jordan, what are your thoughts?
I just think this is really well put together, Autumn, and just I think a tremendous memorial. I'm all in favor if we can work out with Jeremy, the best thing as far as the plaque, if it's the the bronze plaque there, or what we want to do there. But otherwise, I think that the coloration, it just works so great with honoring the Tennessee Volunteers and having the Troy orange in there too. So I love it. I think it's really well put together, and very supportive of it any way I can. Like I said, I think we just work with Jeremy on how to iron out the plaque portion of it.
Mr. Chair, may I
Yeah,
interrupt?
you go right ahead.
Just a couple questions, and maybe Jeremy and I have not talked about this, so pardon me if I'm trying to get up to speed. But if I go, I'm assuming you can see me scrolling up and down here
Right.
on the screen. Jeremy, you've got $450 worth of work between repairing the goalpost and the cleaning and painting of the goalposts, which I would assume you're considering that routine maintenance, and it just needs to be maintained.
Well, the repair of the east goalpost, which in the picture in the rendering is the closest goalpost, leans, and so part of the discussion, the emails going back and forth with Autumn, was that that needed to be repaired anyway. And so do we include that as part of the improvement to the court? So that was just for the cost of the concrete alone, with our park staff doing the work. And then there was discussion back and forth whether or not to replace the goalpost, that both the posts and or backboards and rims. It's very hard to purchase new rims and get those to mount up to the post. And after I inspected them, really they just needed cleaned and painted. So the $150 was an estimate for the cost of material and paint. And then again, us supplying the labor and staff to carry that out.
All right,
So-
was it your intention then we would just take that out of your general fund budget?
That was all part of this project being paid out of the money that was pledged.
All right, but since it is some routine maintenance, I'm sure that the general fund could take care of that. And then if those two are isolated, then the total from the fund or from the project donations become, help me out here, 450 less, so 2,300
Yeah.
of the 2,600 that's pledged. I'm
Right.
assuming, I guess I'd make the assumption that a bronze plaque would be more expensive than the PVC plaque. So if we applied the difference there to a bronze plaque, and then perhaps we used let me scroll up while I'm doing this. If we used one of our canal blocks that are sitting over at the maintenance facility, could not one of those go, I don't know if you can see my cursor here,
Yes.
right behind, maybe in the grass here, even 2 or 3 of them, and mount the bronze on the plaque on one of the canal blocks right here, and that would take care of that issue, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's actually a great idea.
That's what I do.
The canal blocks can double as benches like we did at Treasure Island as well,
Great.
if we wanted to do that.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Jeremy?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that is a great idea and a great solution to what to do with the plaque and the canal blocks. If we have the right size, can double as a bench or a sitting area, similar to what we did at Treasure Island
Right.
along the bike path. So that would work for sure.
I love that idea.
I like it. Yeah.
Autumn,
Okay.
is
I
that?
want to add Autumn. Ask Autumn how
Excuse my
she-
ignorance. Can you tell me what a canal block is?
It's those-
I'm new to this.
Have you ever been out 25A and the old Kettering Memorial Hospital out 25A towards Piqua? And on the right hand now, those are the big, large blocks that formed the canal. We have a bunch of those left over.
Okay.
It's kind of by the boathouse. If you go out that way, you'll see it on the right.
And if you go down to
Oh.
Treasure Island at the boathouse, those blocks down there that form the benches, those are canal blocks.
Okay, I got it now.
Is that something that your group would be excited?
Yeah, I love the idea. I definitely, so as I was looking into the plaque options, I love the idea of the bronze plaque. When I ran it by just a few people, kind of briefly, I think someone said, you're gonna have to add a couple of dollar signs to your budget there. So they kind of threw me the more economical option, just to work within our budget, but I'm happy to reach out and see. Do you guys have any idea, since you are kind of the experts, like sizing wise, what I should be trying to get a quote for?
Doesn't have to be too large. I mean, you can get them in any size. A lot of them are based on the number of words you put on there. So if it's a simply worded sign, but I'm sure that we can work with you on that.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever falls in the budget. But just for reference, the tree plaques that we use for memorial trees are 6 inches by 8 inches. But that's just what we use, mounted on a stone at the base of trees. But we can do something bigger.
Okay.
What's the
How much
cost
are
of
those
the,
typically, Jeremy?
I believe those are around $300, depending on, again, like you said, depending on the wording, but typically somewhere in that range.
Autumn,
Okay.
we're going to have to be very careful about the size of this plaque. I mean, we can't, I don't think it would be appropriate to have a 3 foot by 4 foot plaque. We have to be very sensitive to the fact that this property was also donated to us by somebody who's also passed away.
Mhm.
So, it has to be of a size that is not real generous. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Jordan, Susan, do you have any other questions concerning this issue?
No.
I definitely like the stenciling. I think that's a great nod to Grant. And if you didn't know Grant, you would still look at that and see the Troy colors. And I think that's a subtle way to add his memorial aspect to that.
Okay. I'll make a motion then that conditioned upon the receipt of the pledged funds to go ahead and take care of the cost of the project and the arrangements for the brass or bronze memorial plaque approved by our Mr. Drake, that we go ahead and approve the project and accept the donation.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Abby,
No.
call the roll.
Mr. Cappers,
Yes.
Mr. Emmerich,
Yes.
Mrs. Westfall.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. White.
Okay, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next matter for consideration is a smoking ban in the public parks. We've been approached by a concerned citizen as well as the mayor about smoking in the parks. This is something that municipalities have been concerned about for some time. I'm all in favor of prohibiting smoking in or around our playground or in parks in general. We spend a lot of time, I'm sure Jeremy would testify to the fact that we spend a lot of time picking up smoking cigarette butts and things like that. And it's just not good for public health, in my opinion. The process would be that if we want legislation to be considered, that we would ask city council or the president of council to suggest to a committee of council that they look at a smoking ban in public parks for all of our public parks or in and around playground equipment, at least. So that's what we're going to be discussing now. So Jordan or Susan, do you have any concerns or thoughts?
Well, I feel similarly to you that I'm not a fan of smoking. I think it's dirty. I get tired of picking up cigarette butts on the sidewalks and trying to keep our city clean. And I'm a fan, especially in the children's areas.
Do we want to suggest a smoking ban in all of our parks or just in or around playground equipment?
Mr. Cappers, I would caution against trying to designate areas in the parks. It makes it more difficult to enforce.
Yeah, I don't know how you police that.
This whole matter is going to be a police matter once the legislation's adopted. So, Jordan, do you have any thoughts?
I'm just trying to think of additionally when we have concerts and things like that, how do we handle that? Is that handled outside, or is it when there are people on the square, or they're at Prouty Plaza and we have a stage set up? I mean, does that have any bearing here at all?
Well, it does if we end up making a motion suggesting that there be legislation banning smoking in all our parks. Prouty Plaza is a park. Treasure Island's a park. It would include all those. We have certain matters of legislation that accept certain venues. The alcohol, for one, is a matter that's accepted in certain areas. So, we can certainly accept certain venues, or we let the legislatures legislate.
If I could, Mr. Cappers, I would just echo what Mr. Titterton said about areas within the park. One thing to consider would be like at any of the sports fields. I've heard complaints at the baseball and softball fields during tournaments and so forth with people smoking there as well. So it would be advisable, I guess, to do it park wide throughout the entire park, rather than if we just did the playground area and then still had the issue with ball fields and athletic venues. So I would be in favor of the entire park if we move forward.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I mean, so the motion would be essentially to just ban smoking at any public park, right? Which would,
If that's what you want to do, and we would suggest the president of council remit that to committee for consideration.
okay. I can make a motion to ban smoking at public parks and make a motion to city council. Is that right, Alan? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, to remit it to the president of council for submission to a council committee.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Abby, please call the roll.
Mr. Cappers,
Yes?
Mr. Emmerich,
Yes.
Mrs. Westfall.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next, we have on our agenda the institution of winter golf rates at Miami Shores Golf Course. I've had a phone call into Kyler, Kyler the last couple of days to talk to him about that, but he's unavailable because he's in a golf tournament actually. But he has remitted the winter golf rates. I took a look at those versus what they were last year, and in a couple of categories, they've increased, but marginally, not a lot. And these are his recommendations concerning what we have, and I don't think they're greatest at all. So I would make a motion that we adopt those winter golf rates as submitted by our golf course superintendent.
I can second that.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Abby, please call the roll.
Mr. Cappers,
Yes?
Mr. Emmerich,
Yes.
Mrs. Westfall.
Yes.
Abby, would you make sure that attached to the minutes as you prepare them is a copy of that rate schedule, please?
Yes.
Okay. Abby, also, I noticed that since this is a Zoom meeting, that the public has the right to go ahead and remit questions for consideration or comments from the public. Are there any?
No.
Okay, Mr. Titterington, do you have anything you want to discuss?
No, sir.
Mayor, I see you back there. Or do you have anything you want to talk about? Anything else to come before the commission at all? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you for your attendance.
Thanks.
Thank you.